times you watch the movie, the more it makes sense.
I like films that you don't completely get on the first viewing, because then there's more to see as you watch it over and over again. So a lot of people have said that about my films. But I don't see is Ray here tonight? No, good. He's my sales agent. He's a nice guy, but he kills me if I say certain things. So if anyone wants to ask me any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I can give you an honest answer, which is not often possible for me. So, because we're in a private environment here, I can pretty much tell you real answers, and not the PR answers that I'm supposed to give. So, any questions?
Where is the church that preaches?
The church? Well, that's actually a good story. The church is actually in Morley itself, in the north of England, so it's way up in the north. And it's an interesting history on that church. My aunt and uncle were married in that church, and I used to go around there and play a lot. And in the 90s, I used to go there and take photographs and stuff. And it's a really creepy church. And then they decided to, how do you explain it? They wanted to build, somebody wanted to build some apartments on that church and call it the church apartments, but they couldn't get permission to knock it down. So suddenly there was a fire in the church, and it burnt down. It's in the middle of the town. When you see the aerial shots, it's actually CG. I had to paint out the whole city stuff because it's in the center of town. And so it's right in the center of town. And it's a burnout church, and they're just waiting to redevelop it. But the interesting thing was, while we're filming there, this is why I like filming in the UK, or not filming in Los Angeles. The police turned up and said, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, hello, sir, we're shooting a film." I said, "That's fine." They said, "As long as you're not doing drugs, it's okay." And they left us be, and you can see it's not really the safest place to be in. It really was pretty dangerous, but people are very easygoing there. So, and plus it helps. My grandfather was once a very famous man in the town, so I dropped his name a few times and it went a long way. It's a real church just sitting in England. Very inspiring. Otherwise we would have chosen a castle. But the church was there. You had a question?
Yeah, was that a 9-iron or a putter that you used?
I heard that in England you don't need a permit as long as you don't put down a tripod.
Yeah, there's another story on that. We were filming in, as you saw, we filmed in front of Big Ben. Now, this was a very dangerous time in the UK because the Olympics were on, and it was a high security time. There's all these threats of terrorism and stuff like that. And they actually had apparently they had rocket launchers and guns and little, tracking missiles on the top of all the buildings around London. They're afraid that somebody would try to fly a plane into the Houses of Parliament. So they literally had missiles hidden everywhere to take out airplanes and stuff. So it was pretty high security. There was big security stuff going on. And of course, right in the middle of it, we had to shoot a shot in front of Big Ben. But we just didn't have a tripod and sat up in front of it and did the shot. The police walked past and said hello, and that was it. It's kind of a real friendly town. Obviously, we weren't a big crew. And so you kind of do it in such a way that you kind of almost, just fooling around when you're a film student or something, and they leave you alone. So it's very friendly compared to places like Malibu or.
Oh, come on. Tell the truth.
I dodged the police in Malibu a couple of times.
A couple of times?
Yeah. I've shot without a permit in Arizona and Utah a couple of times, and I got caught. But so it's really a dream to shoot in the UK. It's different, let's just say. You can walk up to a church and film there. You can find an old castle and film in it. I've done a lot of music videos there as well in Europe. So a lot of music videos in Belgium and the Czech Republic and Bulgaria and Germany. So I kind of know what you can get away with. So I'm very clever at just sneaking in.
Who did the script on that? I didn't really see.
I did the script. It's I've got a couple of really big time travel films. This was kind of the small one I wanted to get out of the way, and I've got these really large ones coming out 2016 and 2017. So I just wanted to get this one out. Like I said, it's a very, time travel is very complex. This is a very complex script, but I promise you watch it like 5 or 6 times and then it starts to make sense. There are hidden things in there, but it's how my brain works, you know. I want to do, I kind of looked upon it as a French art film in places too, you know, the way it was cut and the way it was put together. I kind of wanted to do something a little more artistic. The problem is when you do an artistic film, you can't always sell it. And, you know, I make a living from making films. You can't sell films sometimes when you're being artistic. I'd say 93% of movies that are made don't get a sale or don't make a profit, and that's a really sad thing. So you have to be careful to put in certain things that will be guaranteed you can sell the film. And if I wanted to just make a straight art film, I think I would be very proud of that, but nobody may ever see it. So you run that risk. You're always skating the line of, you know, trying to make a sale and trying to get out to 1 million people, or, you know, doing an art film. There's always a risk you take. I think we work out on my larger films, we guarantee at least 1 million to 5 million people watch the films. So, you know, it's a big audience for some of the films. I don't know what the audience will be on this, but that's, you know, that's sort of the numbers we're seeing on these things. You know, so you're always skating the line between art and you know, making something that people actually want to buy and pick up the shelf. So, yes?
You mentioned before the film that you did this kind of in a 3-month period that you were in England. How much pre-production was there before that period? How much, I mean, how did you do casting? It seems like a lot of work to cram into 3 months.
Actually, it's worse than you think. Well, it's a small room, so I'll kind of tell you some secrets. I had a situation come up. I had to raise, you know, as I said, my best friend passed away, and I had to find like 25 grand for something, and I had the giant, what would you call it, warehouse in the US with a big giant spaceship set sitting there. And I was paying this huge amount of money for the spaceship sitting in the US. And this was the film Starship, which is already released, by the way. I had to finish that quicker. That was a much bigger budget. And I was sitting on that. My daughter is in the US. I had to stay in the UK. I pretty much, I went through like nearly 100 grand just in all the dramas I was going through. And it's pretty major stuff. So I had no money. And when I say I had no money, I mean, you know, I was really, the budget, the whole budget of the film was $6,000. And I paid the actors later on, you know. In fact, we just paid, the money's coming in now. So I'm starting to pay the actors, which makes me very happy. But there was a point where I had to go and steal food to survive. You know, it got to, you know, obviously you don't go to small people, you go to the big shopping centers. But it got to that point, then some money came in, and then I was able to, like, you know, spend the money and you know, make the film, but it got that bad. So I didn't have anything else to do. And it was one of those moments in life where you've almost lost everything. And of course, you know, I had $120,000 sitting in the US in a studio in a film, which I couldn't touch. I had a red camera sitting in the US, which I couldn't touch. You know, I had crew waiting for me. I had people being paid. I was like, you know, barely surviving. I lost a lot of weight. But that's why I say it was one of the best times of my life, because I mean, realistically, the pre-production on that, so about 3 weeks. And casting, I took one of the actors from Starship, he's British, and he came across, and I said, do you have any other friends? And he did, and that's where we got the rest of the cast from. And it's just, the guy with the glasses, by the way, you know, that sort of really cool Doctor Who sort of guy, who, you know, you see in the middle of the film, he was actually one of the writers of Die Hard. And he lives in the UK. I think Die Hard 2 he wrote. And he's in the UK, and he just said, I want to be in a film. And so he found me some actors as well. So we just kind of put it together. It was just one of those situations.
You should name him.
Yeah, Ben Treblecourt.
Thank you.
He's a really nice guy. And so he was doing it, and then Darren Jacobs was the other guy, the Yellow Jacket, who died. He was the other one who found all these nice actors. So it was just one of those moments where everybody comes together and makes a film. So, you know, as I said, I've given you some secrets here. But, you know, usually my budget's about $1 million plus. And, you know, this was a really tiny budget. But, you know, I think all up in the end, it'll be about 25 grand is what it cost. Yes, Ms. Tracy.
I think you should tell them about who does all your post-production, because I think that's what makes it doable within the budgets. Because nobody else can
Post-production?
understand. Yeah, post-production. Who does your
Yeah,
post-production?
I mean, you know, it was done, it was post-production, the post was done in about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly myself. I had an editor as well, Dave Edison. It's just for those, anyone here do special visual effects or anything? Okay. Well, the interesting thing was we had a couple of spaceships. One of those
He needs
spaceships, I
visual
actually built
effects,
a
guys.
model spaceship. And then we scanned in 3D as an experiment to see how it looked. And yeah, it kind of worked okay. But, you know, most of it was just myself, just doing all that. And I had a sound mixer in New York, and it's not the final sound, by the way, it's sort of a few tweaks and stuff. But it was really just a very, very tiny project. And, you know, my sales agent, my distributors were very angry at me for finishing that movie first because I had to get Starship 2 out, and there's a massive demand for that. And you know, it's a sequel to a movie I did in, you know, around the same time. So I've kind of been wrapped over the knuckles for finishing that movie, let's just say. But, you know, you've got to finish it, you've got to get it done. It was shot on the Canon 5D as well, so, you know, those of you who know. I have a lot of expensive lenses, so, you know, it is what it is. I shot it myself as well, which made me happy because, you know, I didn't have to argue with my DP. And, you know, I've shot a lot of things, so it's okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to add that when you do shoot things yourself, like I like it better than when your DP shoots it.
You can't talk about that.
Oh, sorry. To the camera.
Normally, by the way, I shoot in, you know, the red camera in 6K resolution. I'm a digital freak, so, you know, this is an easy film for me.
I just want to say that it was a beautiful film. The texture of the film, watching it, was just really beautiful.
Thank you.
And it would just seem like it would take you a lot longer to edit that than it did.
Remember, this has been my day job since the age of 21, so I'm quick. That's the thing, you know. You have to be quick sometimes. You're under the gun with a lot of things, and you know, that's the problem. You know, if this was a hobby and I had a real job, I could spend a year. I would love to spend a year, but I'm working like 80 hours a day, and it's, you know, that's what it takes. People say, oh, you know, I want to make a movie, etc., etc. The secret is it's hard work. And that's all it is. It's just get down and work your ass off. And it's rolling a dice. You know, you don't know how things are going to turn out. I know I've got a couple of really big movies in the, you know, literally are in the can already. Robot Fighter, Death Machine, and these are really major films. And, you know, I guess that they're going to come out there and I'll be known for those larger movies. But, you know, this is something I did in the meantime. So, you know, as I said, I'm proud of it because of where I was at.
How did you get started?
Let's see, how did I get started? When I was the age of 2, I saw Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, and I couldn't understand how he could be on television and on the moon at the same time. It was confusing to me. Actually, I was in Yorkshire at the time in England, and I was so confused by how, you know, he's on the moon, he's on TV. It just didn't make sense. And that was my earliest memory. And I think, you know, I was writing books at the age of 7 to the age of 10. I was a freak child, you know, and you know, I was shooting things when I was 16, 17. I did music videos when I was 16. And I think I went to film school, did 2 years of that, straight out of film school, worked my ass off day and night. Then I became a director at 21. I got lucky. And they put me on, you know, doing television commercials and stuff at a TV station, and pretty much directing ever since. But you know, directing means sometimes you're a yes man, and that's no fun. I've done 500 plus music videos. You know, I've done, I think, 15 feature films in total. I've done 20 plus television shows, 1,000 documentaries, 5,000 television commercials. So you learn along the way, step by step. So there was never a, you know, it's a little piece at a time everywhere. But as I said, you know, finally, technology is where it's at now, where I feel I can do the films I want to do. And if I want to think it up, I can do it. So you'll see the next few movies, you'll see Robot Fighter come out, and you go, wow. And that'll be the culmination of all my art and technology and knowledge. You know, it's every movie I do gets better and bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's a question up the back.
What was it like making that transition to digital for you?
Oh, digital.
Hey, EJ.
That's EJ De La Pena, by the way.
Hey, EJ.
You may recognize him from Jingle All the Way. He was a little kid who punched Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff. And a few other great films, you know, Boy Meets World and stuff, and also Starship Racing.
And nobility.
And Nobility, oh yeah, oh he's the man behind Nobility. It's a new comedy Star Trek. Yeah, I started in film. I was cutting 8mm, 16mm. I hated film. I absolutely despise film. I found it completely disgusting and irrelevant. I also found vinyl irrelevant. But there was nothing else, you know. This is how my brain was, you know. I just thought, why can't it be digital? I was thinking about digital before the word even meant anything. So I remember I think it was, oh wow, early 90s, they were talking about, you know, widescreen television. They actually spoke about that. And the Amiga came out, they were doing a TV show called Babylon 5, and I was chatting with all these people, and we're talking about one day they're going to edit things on computers, and I believe this is going to happen. And people told me I was a fool. And this went on for years and years, and when I was developing the technology with the people, you know, the same people who are doing Babylon 5 as a TV show, they invented the first nonlinear edit system, and the people who invented it came to visit me in Australia, because I had one, it cost me $125,000. And they said, you know, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I gave them a list of how I did all these effects. So I integrated it with Photoshop. And from that point, they took the software and eventually that software became Final Cut Pro, version 1. So in my head, I had something to do with Final Cut Pro, you know, which is the first decent, the Avid was too, the first decent nonlinear editing system. So I was still shooting 35mm back in 2002, but we were color grading digitally. And you know, 2003, I did a big science fiction film, all digital, on one of the first proper HD movies. The first digital film I did was, I think, 1997, 98. Demons in My Head, and it was shot completely digital, edited digital all the way through, and then we blew it to 35. And at the time, I was considered, you know, not the cleverest person of doing this. You should have shot 35, I was told. And all of a sudden, then the digital revolution kicked in and everything else, and you know, that's how it is. But I've always been there in my head. It's always been in my head. That's kind of who I am. So the thing is, I love lenses. I love the way film looks. So I'm always trying to make digital look like film. I'm a freak about lenses. So for me, it's all about the texture and the art, but I'm offended by scratches. I'm offended by, you know, scratches and sound and you know, grain. I love grain. I'm offended by filming scratches. So it's been a painful journey for me. So, you know, yes?
I can't figure out how you did the aerial shots.
Oh, no, I paid money for a helicopter. When I was younger, I used to shoot a lot of aerial shots. You know, we were doing documentaries, and I loved getting in helicopters and flying around and doing stuff. So that's all me, just jumping in a little helicopter and flying over. Mostly, I think it was about 2 days, well, two separate sessions of aerials. You just got to, what you got to just plan it out, and it's a real helicopter, it wasn't a drone, because there weren't drones in 2012. And you just plot out where you want to go. And so, you know, I made a plan of fly here to here, and you know, I shot the whole time. It was 2 hours of aerials in total. But you just have to plan it very, very carefully and know your terrain. So, yeah, it's real helicopters and stuff, but you know, that's how it is. Those aerial shots of the car was just when we had somebody drive the car around the airport. That's how we got those shots. And then we lifted up, went to the moors, went to other places. Yeah, it's how it is. Yes?
Whenever you did the aerial shots, were you able to contract a helicopter, or did you use some of the CH-46s that you had in the other shots? CH-46, the helicopter, the military one, but I'm a mechanic.
Oh, right. No, well, they were separate. No, these were just, what was it? I think it was a bubble-shaped helicopter. It's not a Bell.
R-22?
No, it's something else.
Not a Robinson?
Robinson, that was
Yeah,
it.
R-22.
We had a couple of Robinsons. They were fairly cheap. So we kind of used these a couple of Robinsons. Now, those things were, those helicopters were filmed all over the place and matted in electronically, because, you know, there were a lot of helicopters and jets around the UK. As I said, being that it was, you know, high terrorism fear and everything else because of the Olympics. So you kind of make the most of any situation. Every time I saw a helicopter, I'd grab a camera. You know how it is.
Great.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. I was wondering for you, what's the message, in your opinion?
Oh.
When you wrote it, you were like, okay, what's my idea? What do I want to tell people?
Oh, I've got a message in this film. It's all about destiny. You know, this is the thing. You know, I'm always thinking about time travel. It's my obsession. And the thing is, you know, okay, say you're going to travel back in time. You want to kill Adolf Hitler, okay? So you go to Germany, and there he is standing on the podium, you know, Nuremberg trial. Bring out your gun, you're about to fire the gun at him. But history proves that he didn't die on that day. History proves that. So, you know, unless you're jumping through timelines, you're going to shoot the gun, it's not going to work. Something's going to stop you every time because the past is locked. This is destiny. This is just one train of thought. Until you start jumping timelines and go to like quantum physics, so I'm looking at the original version of time travel. If we're locked into this world and you do travel back in time, everything is as it's meant to be. So that's kind of the message for me. You know, how do you break out of destiny? And that's what I explore in the next two films, is breaking out of that mold. So in this thing, we are locked into who we are. If we can go to the future, you know, then everything is set, everything is predestined. And I mean, it's kind of a Christian ideal, which, you know, that they're all about destiny and everything else. And so it borrows from that. But as I said, I wanted to just explore the notion of destiny first. Is everything locked in place? And then I wanted to explore after that how you jump out of that timeline into other realities. And then the next two films are going to be really messing with people about how you change your reality to points, ways that you'll never expect. Should I tell them the plot? Should I tell them?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a film coming up. That's not the immediate one, but I've got a film about a girl who gives birth to herself. And how that works. This is something I wrote back in 1992. So, but that's a big film, and that's not shot yet. And the other film we've just shot is about At the Edge of Time with Tracy Birdsall, is a man traveling through time and he's rewriting history, and he ends up raping his mother and becoming his own father. So then the pregnant mother is running around. She's got the baby within her, and like, does she abort the baby inside her? If she aborts the child within her, he will stop. But that's terrible. You can't abort a child for all this sort of stuff. So it's all about those choices. And these are massively large scope films. But as I said, I wanted to step into time travel with a smaller film first. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. So yeah, destiny's a bitch. And that's how it is. I don't believe in destiny, by the way. I believe you make your own destiny. But this is the message in this movie is, you know, when you're doing time travel, you could be locked into a destiny thing. So, any other questions? Yes. That's it. Do you have a question?
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you were looking at me.
No.
Who do you think is the greatest filmmaker today?
Oh, Stanley Kubrick. But he's dead. Do you mean alive?
No.
Oh, well, that's a really hard question. You know, I really respect the guy who did Interstellar, Chris Nolan. I have a lot of respect for that guy. I mean, I'm not a fan of all his films, but Interstellar I thought was an amazing movie. I still respect Steven Spielberg a lot. I still have a huge amount of respect for George Lucas. And I mean, as I met the guy once, he's about this tall. And I was like looking at him, I thought, how did this $2 billion Star Wars empire come out of this guy this big? And it was that was my revelation in 1999. So I respect a lot of people, but I respect any person who makes a film with heart, because we've all got our own opinions. I don't criticize people's films. You know, when you're starting out, you'll criticize everything. But once you start making a film, or two or three or four, you stop criticizing because you realize how hard it is. You know, you can't criticize anything. I mean, you can kind of say, I like this or I like that. But when you watch a movie, you can tell something's made by heart. And I think that's, for me, everything. But I think Stanley Kubrick, for me, is everything. There's a lot of Stanley Kubrick in this film, if you're watching. There's a lot of long shots, a lot of long cuts. And a lot of moments where the camera's just on the people, letting them act within the frame. I love working with actors. And this gave me a great opportunity just to let the camera sit there, you know. I lit it the same way as Stanley Kubrick does a lot of his films, in the sense that he doesn't use lights, he used natural light. We didn't actually use any lights in this film, just so you know. It was all natural lighting and really, really fast, expensive lenses, which is what Stanley Kubrick did. So it really was going after that sort of same thing. Of course, we're not talking millions of dollars, you know, but that's the world it is. You know. By the way, Eyes Wide Shut is the greatest film he's ever done, but I'm the only person who thinks that. It will resonate. It will resonate.
Every film he did was different.
Oh, it is, and that's what I try to aspire for that too. The most painful thing for me to do was I've finished a movie called Starship Rising, which is a massive sci-fi explosion space movie. Massive movie, and I shot two movies back to back. I did film 1 and film 2. I'm just in the middle of finishing film 2. I couldn't, in myself, make film 2 the same as film 1. I don't like to repeat myself. Every movie I do is different. I often have the same themes, But that's the same with Stanley Kubrick. You know, you try to strive to do something different every time. And you know, as I said, this was a completely different movie from Starship, and it's a completely different movie from Robot Fighter. It's a completely different movie from Humanity's End, another film I loved, which I made. Every movie is different. And I don't claim anything great about who I am or aspire to be anything great other than, you know, just do my best. But the interesting thing is when they start copying you, when they start imitating you, that's when it starts to happen. I did a movie called Battle Space. It wasn't a great movie in my opinion, my third movie, but it was ripped off really, really badly just recently. I mean, when we say ripped off, it was almost note for note copied, every single part of the movie. And you know, that's how people are. And that was a bigger budget movie, obviously. So when people start imitating you, then you know you're, you know, maybe on the right track. And you know, my movies don't review when they come out really well. They review really badly, but then after like 5 or 10 years, people watch them again. It's like the reviews get better and better and better. I don't understand that, but that's kind of how it works, you know. So I just watch the numbers go up on IMDb. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you know the Science and Entertainment Exchange, and have you ever used any consultants from it?
The which one?
Science and Entertainment Exchange. Have you ever heard of it or ever used any of their consultants on your movies?
No, I haven't, but it's funny. There's a guy called Neil Johnson, same name as me, who's a physicist who does temporal physics and stuff. I read a lot of science myself, a lot of science publications. And I would have been a scientist, but I've never. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Is it?
You can go. I belong to it because I'm a physics professor. It's called the Science. If you go to scienceandentertainmentexchange.org, you mentioned Christopher Nolan. He got Kip Thorne from that organization. Kip Thorne became an executive producer. He was the science consultant for Interstellar, and Sean Carroll was another. General artist who was a science consultant on Thorn, or Tron, sorry, Tron, I'm going to say. If you go to the organization, it puts, you tell them, it's part of the National Academy of Sciences, and you as an entertainer or director go to them and say, here's what I'm looking for, I'm doing this kind of movie, and I need someone to help me with neuroscience in the movie, or, you know, possibilities of time travel. That's what Kip Thorne's done a lot of. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm heavily into proper science. I find that I don't always incorporate it into the films, but I really it's my I mean, Tracy knows it's all I listen to is science podcasts, proper science radio shows, and everything. It's all I do, and I read science books. The weird thing is there's a scientist called Neil Johnson in the UK. And I think his speciality is temporal physics. And we've got the same name, and I make films about time travel, and we keep intersecting all the time. I'm trying to get him to be a consultant because we have the same name. I think that's just ridiculously funny. So, you know, we constantly, you know, I'm getting people thinking I'm him, people think he's me, and it happens all the time. So, yeah, it's something I would like to I'd like to talk more to scientists, because for me, science is the backbone and the future of everything. So that's pretty much our only hope is science, you know, this is me preaching for a second. So, you know, that's it. Any other questions?
I think you want to award though.
Yay!
For a world premiere movie. Thank you so much for
Yay!